Thank you very much, Gerard. It's lovely to be here. We have been working with these issues for the last 5 years together with our Finnish partners. My presentation will be very brief. I try to concentrate on two things. How we can get capacity building for these activities on a local level, on a country level, and then how can we communicate with the companies in a credible way that the companies will take on these matters. So let's go on. Very quickly about FIBS, our organization. So we are not only a business and biodiversity platform, we are a corporate sustainability platform. We have most of the big companies established in Finland as our members and lots of the international companies who are acting here. But apart from that, we also bring together NGOs. Many of them are our members. For example, environmental NGOs, decision makers, public sector and research. And as mentioned, natural capital is one of our main strategic themes. Very quickly about the Finnish Business and Biodiversity Initiative. We started that in practice in 2014, but we already had our first sessions beforehand with a group of around 10 companies. And of course, the initiative, like in other countries, want to create public awareness, help companies, and then integrate biodiversity into business practice considerations. What have we done? We have created a platform for the stakeholders, which means basically that there are certain open seminars, there are training sessions for corporates, and there's a web page where the tools and materials are stored. And something which has been regarded quite positively by the companies is support for communication activities. So typically, for an environmental manager who might have a background of a biologist or natural science, it might be a bit difficult to communicate credibly with CEOs and CFOs of a certain company among these matters. Thank you very much for the nice bird tones. Is it bird life? Somewhere here. And of course, we will have case studies. Example is very important, and before we get the Finnish case studies, we had international case studies from our fellow organizations. The masterclass concept is something which is very tangible and which has tied together various companies and our various partners, including the Ministry of Environment and the Finnish Environmental Center. So we targeted those sectors with most emphasis or dependency on biodiversity. 2014, we had companies from energy, electricity, bioenergy, transport, materials, and foodstuffs. This year, we have companies from the forestry area, construction, airlines, mining, waste management, and beverages, which shows very nicely that those are the areas which believe that they can learn and utilize learning from the biodiversity. And the training content, we are talking about the training program with 4 to 5 trainings per year plus a support program. So the content was by workshops by biodiversity experts, field trips, dialogues and collaboration, and we used the World Business Council BAT course materials, which were regarded very positively. Then, as I mentioned, we had communication workshops supported by communication specialists from companies. And as a minor step, something which was highly regarded was our trip to meet the Finnish Parliament, the Environmental Committee, and tell them what is happening there, because of course they are in charge of legislation around these areas. They are in charge of the government budget for these issues. Quickly, you can see the names of the companies who were involved there. Some of them are Finnish names, many of them have global operations. Then there are international companies, Finnish operations. So we are very happy with that. And of course, we would like to see a third class of 2016 with many companies involved. As an example of the outputs of this training, the companies created material, a snapshot of their own biodiversity footprint. How are they relying on these areas? What are the issues? What are the ecosystem services? And of course, there will be a roadmap what these companies would be doing. And then you can find from our web pages, there's a publication on business cases around those first 9 companies, and after this year, the second batch of 10 companies. Some lessons learned in the end. First of all, from the corporate point of view, there's been lots of kind of worrying about why are not companies taking biodiversity seriously enough. But of course the point is that companies have very selfish reasons. The key word is material. Of course, materiality is being discussed around sustainability reporting. Companies report on issues which are material to them. But if biodiversity is not material to my company, why should I bother? If it's not material to my company or my stakeholders, why should I bother? So that's how we concentrate on those companies who find it material. Of course, materiality can be kind of tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 thinking that is it inside the supply chain or does it affect directly? And one issue we have found in practice that the signals supporting thorough analysis on these matters are quite weak. We have already discussed about the monetization of opportunities, costs and risks. And then there's a lot of scientific research, but there's a gap between science and the companies. And we need to be there, and you need to be there to fill it with kind of tangible evidence and communication. Then a big question, is there a market reward for a company for investing into biodiversity? Are the customers expecting that? Are they paying a premium on that? Is in public procurement these issues taken into account? Markets, we have already discussed about pricing of externalities. Policy, of course, there's lots of policy work ongoing. Stakeholders, this issue shouldn't be at this stage without the work of environmental NGOs, so we really appreciate their work. And then resources. You cannot get any activity without resources for capacity building. And of course, we have received some resources from our partners in the Ministry of Environment. And as a next step, companies will be having tools to analyze the situation. Way ahead, the understanding grows. Companies understand about the planetary boundaries around biodiversity. That's one of the key themes. Support from the global business and biodiversity community increases, all of you here. And then we don't want to compete with climate issues. As we have already discussed here, these issues are interlinked. For example, with the issues like saving species and sustainable development goals. And then we want to stay positive, as we heard from the companies. So linking with the local and global positive themes like green and blue bioeconomy, sustainable forestry, sustainable agriculture, bioinnovation and new materials Many of the leading companies here are already doing that. Then we need clear communication and CEO leadership, like in any business activity. Clearly we have some success stories. So the masterclass concept has been success this far. There have been people who have been personally committed in pushing this ahead in the companies and in the business community. There are certain industry sectors which have been leaders in this area. For example, in the forestry sector, there's a commitment on environmental goals, and biodiversity is one of them. Construction and materials are also very active these days, and the mining industry has done some work on this area as well. And of course, specifically to Finland, so the Arctic biodiversity is very topical for us. And in the end, everybody agrees about the big picture, and the companies are doing what they can to use their resources to save the nature. And of course, our partners are very welcome to help us. And we, in FIBS, we are willing to go ahead, work with all of you and our Finnish partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mikko. So, is there a burning question in the room for clarification? But I'm really looking for short and precise burning questions. And then, because we also hope to have really some dialogue at the end of the session if we can. So there was one hand up there.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I'm Gonzalo León from Chile. I'm in charge of the Initiative for Business and Biodiversity in Chile. And I want to ask you regarding the CEO, are they participating in your platform? I mean, because in Chile we have the problems that the professional in charge of sustainability or business issues have awareness about the issue, but the CEOs are worried about materials. You know, this is one question. In the other ones, related communities, that also the community pressures as an issue in Finland, because in Chile, biodiversity rise this issue because of the communities are asking for their landscape and religious importance of the biodiversity and the sites. Yes,
very good question. So first of all, yes, the CEOs are the exception and not the rule. So it has been environmental expert managers who have been doing the practical work, but of course it needs the approval from the top of the organization, and it goes the other way sometimes, that some CEOs are pushing their organizations to understand this issue. Then about the community level, of course lots of the economic activity happens on a site level, so you have a plant or a mine or a road or a building, and there of course there's first of the regulatory process that you need government approvals to do most things. Companies are complaining in Finland that there are too many processes for approvals. I don't want to comment on that, but then you have processes where you hear the stakeholders like communities. The local NGOs are often very active in terms of forestry or mining. So there's pressure from downwards as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mikko. I will hold the questions for the moment.